Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items I'd like to go over. Thank you for joining our next webinar in Cohesive's Maximo Back to Basics webinar series. Our aim for this webinar series is to highlight existing base Maximo functionality and features that your organization may not be using today to help you maximize your return on investment. Note that this webinar will be recorded and distributed post-webinar. All the attendees are currently set to listen-only mode, but please feel free to post any questions or comments in the chat or question box located in the top right-hand corner of your screen. Should you have any technical questions or problems, please log into GoToWebinar technical team in the form of a question mark or the help section of the panel itself. I'll be handing you over to your host in a bit, but let me do a quick introduction about Cohesive. Cohesive helps owner-operators embed digital ways of working that drive operational efficiency and enhance asset performance across all stages of the life cycle. We at Cohesive draw on core tech solutions to support our clients. These solutions include Bentley's Infrastructure Cloud, iTwin, and IBM Maximo, for which Cohesive is the largest implementer. And without further ado, let's dive in and hand you over to your host, Sarah Hauser. Sarah, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction, Shannon. Welcome, everybody. My name is Sarah Hauser, and I'm with Cohesive. I've been with Cohesive for about 3 years now, and I love to help people optimize their business processes. I've worked in many industries, including those in the utility sector, oil and gas, and for nuclear. Today, we're going to walk through and explore the graphical scheduling applications in MAS and understand some of the foundational elements that you'll find there. Initially, I'd like to cover the agenda, and then we'll move through and cover the data preparation and demonstration portions. Initially, I'd like to cover a brief overview of all of the latest graphical scheduling applications, as well as give a brief introduction to their functionality. We'll discuss a few use cases, review a high-level business process, and spend a few moments reviewing some possible KPIs that would be important to your business. Then we'll do a deeper dive into the 3 pillars of key data that are required to support the use of scheduler applications. And after that, we'll explore the applications themselves with a demonstration in MAS. Finally, we'll leave some room for a best practice review, and then we'll also leave room for Q&A at the end. So what is included in the graphical scheduling suite for MAS? Let's define these applications that are available in the planning and scheduling module within MAS. There are 8 integrated applications covering everything from long-term planning to day of execution. Graphical scheduling is your primary tool. This is where you pull in a set of work orders or even PM forecasts and see them displayed on a timeline. You can adjust your dates, sequences, and view a list of available crafts scheduled to perform the work in a heat map style chart. For really large projects or turnarounds, there's a large projects version that can handle tens of thousands of tasks. Graphical assignment is about who does work and when exactly. It provides a calendar view of each person or crew's day so you can drag work orders to a specific technician schedule. It even has a map view for dispatching field crews, optimizing routes, and handling emergencies. Graphical Work Week zooms in to the upcoming week's work. It's there for supervisors and schedulers to appropriately fill work for the team. It's great for short-term resource scheduling. Graphical Resource View is like a dashboard of resource availability where you can see all working and non-working time for various crafts and crews. It's very easy to modify time and then understand the impacts like meetings and vacation will have to your schedule. Additionally, we have graphical crew management, which shows a crew's roster for the day, highlights if a crew is missing a role, or if a member is not working, and lets you drag in replacements or substitutes. A couple more key specialized applications I'll mention are graphical assignment repair facilities. This is used in scenarios like a central warehouse or depot where you would need to schedule a vehicle to go into a specific garage bay for maintenance. Graphical appointment book is a little more customer facing, where you set up appointment slots for, say, inspections or meter installations and schedule work orders into those slots, often communicating an appointment time to a customer. Additionally, there's a whole set of applications provided to administer all the features of the scheduling applications. Your scheduler data manager assists in validating all of your queries and can flag issues like missing durations or labor records without shifts. Scheduling alternate resources allows you to add additional resources to the schedule without having to add additional labor records. This can be very helpful for tracking things like contractors or temporary labor availability. Configure tooltips allows you to modify the text that appears when you hover over work resources or work order bars in the graphical scheduling applications. Also, Appointment Book Manager allows you to manage all the appointment books required for graphical appointment book. Also, we have scheduler optimization features. These are optional add-ons that you can be purchased separately, and they're designed to auto-schedule work using IBM optimization engines. This is highly useful for very complex scheduling environments and moves towards algorithmic scheduling versus manual drag and drop options. In addition, MAS offers some new dashboard views for scheduling, planning, and dispatching. Dashboards are designed more like a robust start center and can display key KPI data to support backlog management. The customizable UI can allow users to see in action work, measure schedule adherence, and resource allocation. Altogether, these apps cover scheduling from a very high level down to immediate daily dispatch. And while the suite is highly comprehensive, many clients start with the primary graphical scheduling and assignment apps and then expand as they need. But it's good to understand all the options in the toolbox that are available. So let's walk through a couple real life scenarios where we could see some business use cases in action. First of all, we could consider preventative maintenance scheduling. Using Graphical Scheduler, you can upload all of your incoming PM work orders, either as work orders or as PM forecasts, perhaps for the month or for the quarter, and plot them out. By visualizing them, you can spread the work more evenly over the technicians or resources that you have available. Another use case is for a large project or shutdown planning, such as plant turnarounds, IT system cutovers, or large facility renovations. Graphical Scheduler large projects allows you to have a high volume of work in the work list and all of the activities to be performed during this set window of time. You can generate dependencies between work orders and tasks, and they will all be displayed visually in the Gantt. You can also then apply critical path methodology and create multiple scenarios for different approaches to complete work more efficiently given your constraints. Graphical Assignment Dispatch View can also be used for field service dispatch and emergency response. It can cut down travel time by allowing schedulers to view available work on a map and match new work to technicians nearby. This can save hours of driving and fuel costs. It can also help in emergencies, as dispatchers can quickly adjust schedules by dragging work from one day to another to free up technicians' time. Lastly, using graphical crew management, work can be assigned to a crew with all of the right roles and substitutes identified by the scheduler or the supervisor. Using graphical work week, the work can be distributed properly and the crew would know their list of jobs for the day or for the week. Supervisors can easily reorganize based on your crew's availability and their qualifications. While all of the cases I presented are unique, they all need good quality data. For today's discussion, we'll be focusing on managing data that's defined in the planning and scheduling section of this overview. Before heading over to the data foundation pillars, a quick note about KPIs. There are so many ways to measure success when it comes to planning and scheduling. Defining and prioritizing target outcomes will help guide you as you make changes to your foundational data. Graphical scheduler applications are configured to measure schedule compliance, percent complete, cost of work over a period of time, and the accuracy of your planning process. These can all be tracked as part of your scheduling dashboard or outside of Maximo, but ultimately lead to the same outcome, improving planning and scheduling over time. A key takeaway here is to begin with the end in mind. When you're setting up data, evaluate what work is important to manage and what are the goals that you wish to target. Knowing your metrics upfront can help better prepare your data from the start. And speaking of data, what are the core pieces of information that are required to set up the use of graphical scheduling applications? Let's review the three key pillars which are critical to manage. Resource management is understanding who is available, when, and what kind of work they can do. Work planning is setting up dates when work can be done, how long it will take, and what type of work or scope it has. And then managing your schedule backlog, identifying when work can be moved to the schedule by defining a set list of queries for input into the scheduling applications. Let's take a deeper dive into each one. To properly schedule, you must first define when work can happen. In Maximo, that means defining calendars and shifts for when resources are available. Calendars determine what is working versus non-working time for your organization. You can create multiple calendars, but you must have at least one to get started. Once you have a calendar, then you can define your shifts. Shifts indicate working periods. A classic example is the 9 to 5 shift, Monday through Friday, but they can range from simple to highly complex. The number and complexity of your shifts will be based on your organizational requirements and general maintenance practices. You can also specify holidays or other non-working time, such as training, breaks, seasonal outages, as required by your operation. A good practice is to set calendars into the future, meaning several years, and adding a notification to periodically check them. You can also define your company holidays and at least one basic shift. You can always add complexity as you go. Next, you'll need to understand who can do work and what type of work they can do. At minimum, each of your labor records for people like your technicians, engineers, crew members must be tied to a calendar and a shift. It's also very helpful if they have a primary craft identified. A craft defines a role within your company that performs a work or a service. Adding calendars, shifts, and crafts to your labor records will define which resources are available to do work and at what time. When managing schedules, you'll need to know which people are available for work assignments and all the type of work that they can perform. As an example, I have a set of 4 operators. All 4 could be listed as operator as their primary craft, all on the same calendar, but 2 would be assigned a day shift and 2 a night shift. This way, when the scheduler goes to assign a new set of recurring inspections, they can select one of the day operators versus the night shift, or the reverse, depending on your situation. If you have a large group of people to manage, start with some of the most critical resources first. For example, if you're starting to log all of your PMs into a schedule, focus on your maintenance team, and then branch out to other people who may perform ancillary work. Next, you'll want to review your work order data. Several critical pieces of information are required to make ready-to-schedule work easy to search for and apply in work queries used in the graphical scheduler applications. The minimum requirements for schedule-ready work are target start and finish dates and durations. These can be derived from the job plan associated to the work order or from the PM record, if appropriate. These dates can also be applied during work order creation and enforced with workflow rules. As a note, work without a duration will appear in the Gantt as a diamond or a milestone. Setting your default site on your work orders is also required for multi-site environments. Defining your planned resources is important also. This is found on the Plans tab and shows the craft and the number of hours of planned labor. For example, a pump replacement may have a total duration of 5 hours. However, I require one mechanic for 4 hours and one electrician for 1 hour. The two resources with their hours allocation will be visible when I go to assign work, where the total available work time will be maintained at 5 hours. Additional nice to have options when setting up your work orders are to set up specific statuses to alert users where work orders are in the planning process. For example, the status waiting schedule for PMs, indicating work is approved and materials are available. You can configure many status options to appropriately define the point when schedulers can begin organizing their work. You'll also want to identify in the responsibility section on the work order, whether that's a supervisor, lead, or work group, who is organizing this work. Filtering by supervisor or lead can be helpful when building queries to define your schedules. Additionally, some other fields to consider populating. The interruptible toggle on both the header and the task level of your work order. This will be set if the work can spread. This will be set, and if you set this toggle, you can spread work over multiple shifts, or if you don't set it, it will be not interruptible, meaning it has to be completed within a single block of time. This field can be applied to the work order, job plan, or PM record, and will apply to the work order and all of its associated tasks. You can also choose to set the toggle on tasks separately if you'd like. Another field to consider are the include tasks in the schedule toggle. This can also be set on work order or job plan. This will allow each task to have their own scheduling information that can be managed graphically. Adding tasks can create complexity, so start small and remember to plan your labor at the task level also. For work planning, while it's not required, it's important to consider job plans as well. Consider implementing job plans for recurring work to reduce your replanning time if you haven't already. If your organization is using job plans, many key work order data points can be populated with some minor adjustments to the job plan. First, identifying the craft or crew hours and quantities needed to perform work, either at the header or the task level. This will generate the planned labor on the Plans tab in your work orders. Define a reasonable duration. Set duration based on historical performance. Also, defining a standard priority or here or on the PM record can help with managing your backlog. For more complicated scenarios, evaluate if you require specific work tasks and who those tasks are performed by. Assign crafts or crews to each task to ensure proper assignments are available in the scheduling applications. If you decide to use tasks, you can define relationships between them, and those connections will appear in the graphical views and keep task data and header data together. Again, same as work order, some other fields to consider populating are the interruptible toggle. This will set if the work can spread over multiple shifts or if it can be completed in a single block of time. Also, include tasks in the schedule toggle can be set on the job plan for each task. This will allow each task to have their own scheduling information. When first starting out, It's important to consider your most critical job plans first, or you can consider your key PMs that will have the most impact on your daily operations and target those first. Finally, understanding which work orders are ready to schedule is highly critical to having good views of data in your scheduling applications. Use the key identifiers on your work order, like work order status, responsible person, site or location information. To improve your performance and keep your total number of records in your queries small to start with, limit your queries to more specific groupings of work, like corrective work or emergency work. Then you can build in several schedules to view combinations of work, or you can compile queries into a larger schedule. This will allow you to view required changes easier, especially as you're getting started. For those with 768 or above and/or if you have scheduling licenses, IBM provides the Scheduler Data Manager app. It's a great solution which can review queries like a pre-flight checklist. It'll scan your data for things like missing crafts on work orders or a labor record without a shift, and alert you so that you can fix those before you start scheduling. These double checks can help as you build out more queries and can help shore up any missing links along the way. As always, it's important to evaluate your queries periodically so that you can improve and refine your schedule. Okay, now let's step into the applications themselves and we'll go for a small test drive to see these foundational data points in action. I'm going to log into Maximo and pull up our planning and scheduling module, where we'll be able to view a list of all of the available graphical scheduling applications. I'm going to tour 4 of the primary applications. I'll start with Graphical Scheduler, Graphical Assignment, Graphical Workweek, and then move to Graphical Resource View. In the Planning and Scheduling module, I'll navigate to Graphical Scheduling and select my demonstration schedule from the list. You'll note as we select and view from the Schedule tab, I can see all of my work queries that I've built to pull into my schedule, the work list of work orders that I want to schedule. You can utilize queries by copying them from other applications, such as work order tracking or from preventative maintenance. You can also use the Add button to add new queries directly into the work queries table. I can also limit the number of resources that are available in my schedule using the Restrict Resource Availability table as well. Again, I can copy queries from other applications or add my own query as a new row. I've built out my query using my applicable calendar, my available shifts, and I've set the type to work. As a note, you can also build out schedules that show asset and location availability, but today we're going to focus on work orders. There are a lot of parameters here that I can use to define my schedule. I can also choose to add additional resources in the More Information tab. This can be very useful if you're looking to manage schedules without having to create new labor records. Schedules are created in draft, and then you can approve them. Once approved, you'll have limited ability to edit the inputs into the schedule, like queries, but you'll have flexibility to make edits to work that appears in the Gantt. Let's go over to the graphical view, and we'll display the schedule that I have created. I've set up a simplified maintenance schedule for the next week as an example. We'll also show the 4 quadrants of work. In the upper left quadrant, I have my list of work orders or my activity list. Next to it, I have the Gantt chart or the timeline, which shows the work orders displayed as a bar. Underneath, I have my resource requirements or my resource list, and also the resource heat map. This is a resource chart showing the work availability of all the resources I have listed. The upper right Gantt view shows each work order as a bar across all of the dates. This is based on your work order duration, and you can see how long each job is expected to take and the day that it's scheduled. If you realize your task timing isn't quite right, you can select any task and drag and drop it to a new date or a new time within the same date. You can also highlight multiple and move them together as a group, and they will shift. Scheduler will also enforce a few rules. For example, if a work order has a hard deadline or a must start date, dragging beyond that date will flag it red. As an example, I have my generator overhaul. If I move it to Friday, I can see that a finish no later than date line appears to show that I can't move that generator overhaul past that date without infringing on the constraints I have set up in the work order. If I do decide to move it past, it will turn the entire bar red. Also notice in the lower portion of my heat map, I can see that I've also overloaded the people on shift. I don't have enough available hours to actually perform the work that I'm deciding to do. Let's go ahead and move this back. The lower right pane lists all of your resources or crafts required by the currently displayed work. We see rows for electrician and mechanic since these are the crafts that I have assigned work to. Again, in the heat map or the resource chart, each craft has a colored timeline indicating how busy that craft is, either by day, week, or shift, or monthly, which I can change the display of here. Purple will indicate the total availability, whereas blue is what's been scheduled against that particular person or shift. Again, if it's turning red, you've overloaded that craft with more hours than you have available. It's a quick visual check to check your resource availability. By moving work in the Gantt, it will reallocate the hours available in your heat map. Another powerful capability is adding dependencies between tasks. You can link them by selecting the work orders you wish to link, and then you can move them by selecting constraints for the selected work. For example, I want to select these two and create a constraint between them. And now you can see there's a small arrow between these two. If I select this arrow, then I can edit the constraint in the field. I'll show my predecessor work order, successor, and the type of constraint. I can select any type of constraint I like, apply a lead lag, and then select OK. You can also apply critical path methodology using the icons located on the toolbar. This allows you to calculate critical path either for a subset of work orders within your schedule or for the entirety of the schedule itself. Once you've calculated your critical path, you can then also filter on the critical path, which allows you to show only those work orders in your critical path in your Gantt view. Also note we have a Compare Scenarios tab. Maximo lets you create multiple scenarios for a given schedule. That means you can do what-if analysis and compare between the two. You can try those separate scenarios without changing your current plan and only commit your changes when you're satisfied. You can create new scenarios using the More Actions menu to create them manually, or you can publish a snapshot or publish a scenario, which will then add it to the available options to compare. As you can see, I have a few different options to compare here. As a note, refreshing your data in the Gantt view will update your schedule with any changes made to the work records coming from those applications like work order tracking. Whereas if you commit your changes, those will write back all the changes that you've made in your scheduling applications to work order records. Publishing a schedule will make that version of the schedule the default view or your ideal snapshot. You can also take a snapshot which will be saved to compare against at a later date if you choose. Let's go ahead and move to graphical assignment to show how I've manipulated my schedule. Oh, I would like to save my changes, yes. Graphical assignments used to assign upcoming work to specific people or crews. I can also create a graphical assignment record from a graphical schedule. That will pull in all of the same work queries and requirements that I've added in my graphical schedule to apply to my graphical assignment record. Graphical assignment provides two primary views. I have my work view and my assignment view. Moving to my work view, this is very similar to the work list that you see in the scheduling application, as well as the Gantt chart. I can see all of the work orders that I have, as well as their broken out assignments and where they're placed on my calendar. Just like in Scheduler, I can adjust my columns and choose items to display that are more meaningful to me, and then make those changes here. Also, just like Scheduler, any modifications I make here will write back to work order records and be viewable in work order tracking or in mobile applications. Moving to my assignment view, I can see all of my resources and crafts on the left and any work that is ready to be assigned or has been assigned. All of my assignment records are green, meaning they have a valid assignment. When I first create a graphical assignment record, though, they're going to populate with and look orange, like this. That means that they're waiting to be assigned to a specific person. I can then select this work and drag and drop it to where I want in the schedule and who I want it to be performed by. Also, if I'm here and it's orange, I can select it and highlight it, and it will show exactly who is able to do this work. Dark blue is a good match on both craft and qualification, whereas light blue is a partial match. If I move the assigned work out a bit, it'll turn yellow. This is letting me know that the resource is double booked. I can be double booked against non-working time or double booked in terms of having two concurrent work orders at the same time. If you want, you can also split the work, either across shifts or between two different people. I can select that option here by clicking on my right arrow. Any non-working time that's been added to a particular resource, like here for Tom, will appear in my Gantt view. This is letting me know he has 2 hours of scheduled vacation during his routine shift. Any vacation, meetings, or sick time that has been updated in other graphical applications will also show here. Additionally, if I attempt to schedule a work order, or if I attempt to assign a work order to a craft that it doesn't belong to, it will turn red. This is indicating that this work can't be assigned to Tom because he's a mechanic, and this is supposed to be for an electrician. If I don't want to use the drag and drop option, I can always right click and view available labor. And from here, I can make any choices that I'd like. Now that I have all of my work assignments and they're all green for the period of time that I have available to show, I'm going to save my changes and move to the graphical workweek application. Again, in Graphical Work Week, this is for a simpler view and it's organized by days of week and shows how many hours of work each resource has per day. I can also create a Graphical Work Week record, either from a graphical scheduling record or from a graphical assignment record. This will copy over any work queries and settings that I've applied in those applications to this one. Moving to my graphical view, this will now show a condensed version of what's shown in my scheduler application. It shows the status of my work list, work orders as assigned, as well as their dates, priority, or any columns I choose to display. I can see the work that's green on the calendar and the work bars by duration. I can also see that my generator has this finish no later than date on Friday afternoon. I can also see my heat map, which shows all of my available time and resource loading for the week. For example, I can hover over any of these and show who has time off and what type. I can select reason codes here and adjust any of that time as I need to by selecting the type of work that's required, for example, sick time, and then indicating how much time the person will need off, whether it's a full day, a full week, or a partial day. Partial days will show just like the triangles in a corner. A full day will turn the entire uh, tile the color of the reason code. I can see how many hours I have available in green for any resource on any given day, and also the total roll-up of hours by craft in blue. Moving from graphical workweek to graphical resource view, I'm able to do very similar work, but for a larger group of people. Graphical Resource View provides a calendar-based view of all of my resource availability, and it's generally for a longer time. Notice that there's no Gantt view with this. There is only going to be a heat map showing all of my resource availability. I can open the list of people that I manage, and then I can see all of their projected time off and the various reason codes associated with resources impacting my schedule. This list is organized by craft and then by resource name. I can again view the total available hours by craft in the blue summary line. The other tiles will show W for working day. Grayed out boxes are for when people are off shift. You can select the columns that are visible as well as in all of the other applications to show any additional information that you want. There are several options for listing non-working time defined by the reason codes here. These are also configurable as well as the colors are configurable if you wish. I can modify either for a full day, a partial day, or a full week by selecting from the drop-down list. Partial days are displayed with the corresponding non-working time color in the upper right as a triangle. This view is great for understanding long-term availability, bottlenecks, or constraints that you may face in your upcoming scheduling windows. Now I'm going to head back to our presentation for a few moments. Where we can cover the final portion of the presentation. As a final piece to the puzzle in your scheduling journey, I'm just going to highlight a couple best practices and a few next steps. First, I want to point out that it's very important to plan and then schedule. Schedules are the output of good planning processes. Small adjustments to plans generally have large impacts to schedules. Also, adopt new practices gradually. Identify the key activities for your business as well as your target KPIs, and then use the applications which make the most sense for your organization. This will help you manage risk, build confidence, and drive change. Utilize tools to manage your data. As the saying goes, pour data in, pour data out, and regularly review your backlog of work orders for your key information, and set up audit timelines for things like calendars, shift adjustments, and labor record changes, as well as good query management. Engage with your stakeholders, measure and improve, and finally, leverage training and your community of resources. You can reach out within the Maximo community and participate in webinars just like this one. We've covered a lot of ground today in the graphical scheduling applications and how to enhance your scheduling capabilities. And now I'd love to hear your questions.
So sorry, could not get off mute. Okay, we have a few questions.
Great.
Does Scheduler allow you to hide tasks but still show child work orders?
Yes, you can set up so that if you're creating child work orders from a parent record, that those will appear in your schedule, but you do not have to enable tasks in order for that to happen.
Wonderful. Is there, I think this goes, is there a duration based on planned labor?
So I think if I understand your question right, is your planned labor going to drive the duration on the work order? And the answer is no. The duration on the work order is driven based on what you set up in the work order, or if you associate tasks, all of your tasks will roll up and drive that duration on your work order as well.
Okay, wonderful. Um, if there's anybody who has any questions, please make sure you post them in the chat box. I do have a few more still to go through, but please continue to add questions into the chat box, into the question box, or into the chat box. Why are some work descriptions in my schedule/work list displayed as blue, italic, and have an asterisk in the font?
Yes, that's mostly because you've made changes to that specific work order or task. And then when you commit those changes in the schedule, they should go back to a non-italicized, non-blue form.
Oh, good tip. Are there any limitations to the number of tasks you can schedule at a time?
No, there's not a hard limit. However, Graphical Scheduler is designed for fewer records, less than 10,000 total per schedule, whereas Graphical Scheduler Large Projects is designed to handle large volumes of work orders and tasks.
Can I assign my work and have the schedule date change to match the assignments without having to change both the assignments data and the schedule data?
Yes, there is a field that you can set in the background that allows you to create a relationship between those two things so that you can sync your scheduled dates and your assignment dates so that you won't fight each other when you're trying to make scheduling and assignments.
Wonderful. We'll do one more question. See if any more come in, but Is it mandatory to have the duration in the work order for us to schedule, or can we just schedule based on the target start date and the target end date?
Uh, from my understanding, Scheduler requires the duration in order to populate the bar that you see in the Gantt view. The two dates aren't enough by themselves. A lot of times you can identify those two dates and then do a calculation to get your duration if that's something that you're interested in doing.
All right, let me just double check here. I think those are all the questions. Thank you all so much for your time today. Sarah, great presentation. Thank you for all for that wonderful information.
Thank you very
Um,
much.
You're very welcome. With that, we'll wrap up today's webinar, but please make sure that you join our next one in August, and we'll be sending out some emails around that. And we look forward to seeing you all on our next. Thank you all again, and have a great day.